Now let's talk about the difference between traditional approaches and orthographic approaches. So with traditional approaches, we are seeing literacy, language, and sometimes cognitive delays as our students are getting older. They continue to struggle academically, and that's even after we've dismissed them from speech, and we'll continue to talk about that. We're also seeing delayed progress, especially when we have involved speech sound errors. But by simply using orthographic approaches or by building print into whatever evidence-based techniques you're already using, you're going to improve speech intelligibility, you're going to provide that early literacy foundation, and you're going to develop phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is that awareness at the sound level, which is essential for those early and later reading skills. When you think about that traditional approach, and really this is any approach, evidence-based approach you're taking, this really just kind of gives us the steps to walk through so you can see it. Sitting down with our students, a lot of times we're talking about placement. Can you put your teeth on your lips? Can you make the sound for me? Do it again, do it again, do it again. So we're drilling, drilling, drilling. Metaphorically, we're getting that placement produced. We're getting that sound produced correctly through placement. Then maybe we work in words, or maybe we mix it up. We work in words, we work in sentences, but our end goal is to get that sound produced correctly in conversational speech. Unfortunately, when we're using a lot of these evidence-based techniques, we're not using literacy along with it. Or if we are using literacy along with it, we're not integrating printed cues. And because of that, a lot of our students, even after we've dismissed them from speech, they have underlying phonological weaknesses. And we're going to address that in just a second. And it's really one of those, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Did they have a weak phonological system to begin with, and was almost a symptom of that the speech sound disorder, or was there just a speech sound disorder there and their phonological system was intact? And so that's really sometimes what we're kind of trying to tease apart. Or when they're little, like the little ones I have, when I first get them onto my caseload, I'm not worried about teasing that apart. I'm worried about just providing the intervention either way for these students, so that as they get older and become readers, I know I've done everything in my power to help. When at the very beginning, when I started talking and I was talking about, I started this whole adventure and I was working through the letters and I went to all of the research and started reading and couldn't find anything in the area of speech pathology, but found a lot in the area of linguistics. That was my aha moment. I kept thinking, why aren't we doing this in speech? Why aren't we bringing in all of the literacy, especially the letters? Because it all made sense to me. I could see how it all came together. The speech, the literacy, the language, it all just came together. And that at that point, it was a book that I read, and it's in your handout. It is called Beginning to Read, Thinking and Learning About Print by Marilyn Adams. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource. I've read it several times over the years. But that, like I said, that was my aha moment where I fully understood how the brain reads and how speech and language are a part of that process. I'm going to talk about the processors in your brain and how we read. And with those processors, I'm going to explain it in a hierarchy. These processors work together, and they should work together almost simultaneously. But if we have one of these processors that's stronger than another processor, or a processor that's weaker than another processor, we're going to end up having problems decoding a word, comprehending a word, or both. Going back to decoding, the greater the time and effort it takes a student just to decode a word, chances are that's going to affect comprehension. So for example, if you were working on clusters or blends and you did meet your goal, you got that student to be able to produce that cluster in conversational speech, but they're still struggling. There's still a phonemic fuzziness. That phonological representation underneath is still weak. So as they're reading it, say they're reading quietly to themselves, and the sentence is, did you see, or please stop at the sign. They get to the word stop, and they're reading to themselves, and the sentence is, please top at the sign. And they're thinking, on top of the sign, please top at the, what's on top of the sign? What? Or I'm going to play with the top of the sign? What? Huh? That makes no sense. So they go back and read it again. Please stop. Stop. Oh, stop! Please stop at the sign. Oh, that makes sense. But the more time it takes to decode one single word, chances are they're going to lose comprehension from that whole story they're reading, because that probably wasn't the only word that they struggled with, because there are weak underlying phonological representations for that student. When it came to mapping the sounds from the phonological processor to the orthographic processor, so the phonological processor is putting that sound onto the letter, it may still be weak. So our students are still struggling. So the more support that we can give them early on, the better off they'll be. The next thing we're going to do is to take a look at working with print. We're going to watch a video. And with this video, something else I just wanted to point out is, through the years that I've been doing this, when I initially started working with print, I noticed how much more quickly I was able to blend the words together. Without working with print, when I'm segmenting a word, we'd have that articulation error. And I talked a little bit about that when we first started. So like the word fish, we get bish or fish. That articulation error, sometimes when you try to blend that word together, sneaks back in very, very quickly. But when you have print, you can tell the child, and I do this a lot, I'll even write it down. I'll write down the word fish and put that error in there and cross it out with a big red X and say, oh, look, that sound's not in there. We have to take that sound out, and I'll show the child. So print is an amazing way to cue kids. And once they become more and more aware of the print, they can begin to self-cue, because they see that sound letter correlation, see where it is in the word. And sometimes, if you're working at the beginning of the word and they see that sound or that letter at the middle or the end of the word, they begin to self-correct, which is also an amazing skill to watch. So let's take a look at working with printed words.